Well, hello there, and welcome to the 5th episode of DoubleDM podcast. I am Emil, and I have, as always, my lovely co-host with me, Niels. How are you doing today?
Hello! I can't complain really. Just some work stuff, but who hasn't? Or who hasn't got something? So, yeah.
Everybody's gotta do work.
How are you today?
I am fine, very fine today, because today is Self-Promo Saturday, and I always love these days because I get to, on Twitter, find so many new people with all kinds of projects and fun stuff they create. I have found people that write adventures, systems, that actual play podcasts and whatnot, and all of it is super great. Always seeing how people turned their passion into a project that they love is always great to see. You see every kinds of people that show you why their project is valuable, because every project is, and only because the person behind it makes it valuable, because every person has this passion, at least in the TTRPG space on Twitter, with Self-Promo Saturday, everyone has the passion for for the projects they do. So it's yes, it's always a delight to see when people show you the fun stuff they do. So last time we recorded an episode, it was Monday last week. So we nearly had 2 weeks of not having a podcast episode. So we have some things to talk about. First and foremost, the social media blow up, you could say. At least, yes, you could say it's a blow up. I have hit yesterday 800 followers on Twitter. I'm already
Congratulations
at
for that.
830 already. It's after Self-Promo Saturday. That's always a crazy day. Yes. The podcast account has 370 followers, maybe even 400 when this episode comes out, which would be amazing. I would.
I mean, it's already crazy how many people follow us, to be honest, but keep going.
The Hope Discord server, the Hope for TTRPG's Discord server is doing very good. We have so many new people joining, so many interesting people you can interact with, and if one of the people that is listening to this is not on that Discord server, I will find you and I will force you to join that Discord server.
Yeah, but you definitely should. It's so wholesome, so helpful. Anything you have TTRPG related, if you have any questions or tip requests, just post it on there, and in about at most 1 hour or something like that, there's somebody to answer you, because there are people from all over the globe on there. So
we have people from Australia, from Singapore. We have the I don't know if you know them, but the Fourth Culture crew, which are the biggest Singapore D&D stream. They are on there too. We have European creators, and we have American creators, obviously. So no matter when you post something, someone will be online to see it and probably also help you if you need help with anything.
And at most 8 to 10 hours, and you have a bunch of new tips or ideas that you can implement into your request.
Yes, on that server, I learned, I met some people. One of them is Maka the DM, one of the, probably in my opinion, most amazing people I have ever met in my life already.
He's definitely
a lot of fun. He is so insightful. He has done nearly everything in his life. Did you know he's a he was a professional wrestler?
He was what?
That man is a freaking legend. Like I said, he's a freaking legend.
Was his wrestling name Brett or
I
something like
don't
that?
know what his wrestling
by
name was, but I
coincidence?
hope it was Mr. Brad or something. Or Brad Boy or something.
Uh,
But I don't actually know.
Brad Boy.
But he is a delight to be around. He's always fun. But he can also be very serious when talking about serious topics and giving advice, because I have seen something with his podcast or his actual play stream on Twitch, the Check These Out crew. All of them I have interacted with so far are amazing. The social media manager is a delightful, fun person. The map maker Lewis is an artist that really needs to find someone that parallels his work. He is so
I
amazing.
actually got some tips from him through the Hope server for my own campaign maps, and because of those tips, they turned out really well.
Like he and Maps on Quests are probably the biggest artists for maps on that server, I would say. At least the most active.
On that server, they are unrivaled. They are unrivaled in their activity and their quality.
The quality is insane on those maps those people do. I aspire to one day have like 5% of the skill they have to even get maps. Because 5% of that skill that these two people have would have already shocked my players to the core from what they see now.
Same for me. I used those tips and maybe got around that 5% quality mark you were talking about and showed them to my new players, and they were crazy. They thought it was something right from Wizards of the Coast. They didn't believe me that I homebrewed this world.
That's so nice.
With this
but the Check These Out crew, they have been streaming for 24, 25 days from the moment of recording of this episode now. They have 2 episodes out on Twitch and a lot of other small stuff out there as well. They have hit affiliate already. And I don't know the real numbers behind it, but they are one of the biggest D&D streams when they are streaming. The 3 hours they stream on every Tuesday, 10 p.m. CET till 1 a.m. CET on Tuesdays. They are probably the biggest stream in Europe for that. That's that moment, I think.
Fucking amazing.
I don't want to say that that's 100% true, but I want to say that I firmly believe it is true.
And I want it to be true, because they deserve every bit of it.
Yes, they do.
And even more.
They deserve so much. Have you seen any of the episodes yet?
Sadly not. I did not have the time to check these out.
That joke was made so often already. No, but Maka, as you know him, is a very memey, funny person. Of course, the first episode had many references to Brett in there. The legendary Marcus Brett that had healing powers beyond comparison. Something like that. It's crazy.
Actually, we should try to get him on the podcast here.
I have talked with him already about that.
At least once.
He will be on one of the episodes. I guarantee you that.
Very nice. Maybe the topic will be bread.
Maybe it will be bread, something else. So, we should get going a little bit.
Yeah.
I have a story for the recap from my game table that happened exactly 6 days ago on Sunday. I am done with numbers. Valentine's Day, 14th of February. My players, we are playing the Tyranny of Dragons module. And they just were in the last chapter of Heart of the Dragon Queen, which is the Skyreach Castle, which is the flying castle. And they infiltrated as cultists. and got caught. Or, well, they fought some cultist, got caught after that, fled through the castle, and then the only decision they still had was to jump off the flying castle into the unknown of what is below.
Oh boy.
This is like it's the best way I could end that campaign midway. Like I will not end that campaign, but it's the first book is finished now. Now I can take time to fill in the gaps again, to make my own plot around it, and then start with the Rise of Tiamat module when I think it fits best. So it's perfect because they don't know what's coming. They expect actually not much, and it's great. But like,
just to be sure, you have the follow-up game tomorrow, right?
I have a different game tomorrow.
No?
Tomorrow, I have my sessions are always bi-weekly.
I see.
And yes, tomorrow I have a session that is it's a fairly new campaign. Players are level 4 for players, and they are supposed to defend a village from gnolls. Yes, that's actually gonna be fun because that's the first time I will use any kind of mass combat rules, really. And
that's the one. That's the one I remember. Yeah.
So, yes, my players shall also fly in castle. Crazy. They are actually not the normal kind of falling. Like nearly every D&D party has access to the spell Featherfall, right? It's not a hard spell. Probably. It's fairly easy, and you can use it in every given point actually.
Yeah.
I think they have access to the spell, but just didn't use it. They are jumping and plummeting to the ground. Not slowly sinking. They are falling. They will hit the ground hard.
I think the Featherfall spell only lasts for a minute.
Yes, but they could activate it right before they hit the ground. It's weird. But let's just say it's simple. They jumped off because the cleric had cast Death Ward on himself. The half-orc sorcerer has relentless endurance from the half-orcs, which lets her do one time here survive this. The monk can basically absorb all the damage. And the rest of the party has either wings or is riding a wyvern.
Whatever.
It's a wyvern.
A small flying dragon.
It's not a dragon. It's dragon-like. We don't want to get into that.
A small flying draconic.
So it's gonna be very amazing to see what happens in the next time we play. But before we get caught up in that, you had something to tell us as well.
I recently talked with a coworker of mine, and he had his first D&D one-shot last Saturday as well. And they were so fixed, like they would love to play again, but the DM was first-time DM after some time of playing, and wasn't ready to
do a campaign.
DM a whole campaign, exactly. And I offered myself to DM the campaign. But it turned out there were a little more players than I expected. I expected something like 4 or maybe 5 people. Now we have a standard group of 7 players.
7-player campaigns.
Plus 1 or 2 that come in as guests sometimes.
So you have basically 9 more or less confirmed players in your group.
Yes.
That's crazy.
I mean, having one combat round in a 9-player group with all the monsters to make it balanced will take minimum 1 hour. And the whole combat lasts about 4 to 5 hours. So basically just one session is only combat. I'm stoked.
It could very well be there.
Excited. And anxious.
We should
But-
definitely make an episode on party size or player size at the table, too.
Yeah.
But it's like D&D is not made, but has the recommendation of 4 players at the table. I normally play with 6.
Yeah.
And that's my maximum of I can hold these players like DMing. If anyone is listening that has never DM'd in his life or has never talked to a DM in his life or her life or whoever lives or their lives, DMing is like being a kindergarten. It's like being a caretaker for kindergarten children. You are babysitting. And you need to watch out for all of them equally at the same time. And it's not that like every player has a certain load you need to take care of, and that load becomes something. It's more like percentages. Like you have to distribute your percentages equally to them, and the more players you have, the less attention everyone gets, and the less energy you will have after the session. I have had sessions with only 2 players. Those were more or less easy because it was never an option to split the party really, or someone doing something on their own. It was always, let's do this together. We need to talk about this and all that stuff. That's great. And if you are at 6, it's splitting the party is a valid option, but you still don't really do it. And like with 6 is my maximum of I can hold these people in line together at the same time.
Yeah, but with 8 you have the option available to split the party and have basically 2 regular sized parties. This will be terrifying. But one thing to say, they are really motivated and would love to have more many role-playing sessions.
That is perfect.
So
with 8.
And they are fucking amazing in terms of dedication to interesting character backstories, which will actually be our topic today, and role-playing, because they had in their one-shot they had many role-playing opportunities and combat, and like both equally. So that's a good thing actually for this party size, because when they talk as their characters between themselves, I have some time to recover and prepare some things that are coming for them or after them or with them or whatever.
Yes. Then should we move on to the last thing we wanted to talk about in the recap?
Yes, we should.
I will just get this out of. I have agreed to run a Witcher one-shot for some of my friends, you included.
Yes,
we will be playing the Witcher tabletop RPG, which, in my opinion, is actually a pretty good system. From what I have read about it and seen in the rules.
I'm stoked. I've never played it. I just love the universe.
I adore the universe. I love it with all my heart. The Witcher 3 is one of my favorite, if not my favorite game of all time. And I will die on that hill. And I can talk for hours about the world, and I don't want to get into too much because we are already cutting a little bit on time with 20 minutes for this.
Oh, yeah.
So I will not get into it too much, but basically in the Witcher world there are these witchers. People that have been enhanced by mutations, magic, and all that stuff to become killers. Professional monster killers. They receive training from an early age, like Jedis, for example, but have a way harder treatment because 30% of all witches die in the trial of grass, at least, and that is the thing that makes you actually a witcher. That mutates you to be able to cast the witcher signs, to make the signs, to
to endure
to
your
endure
potions.
the potions, to have this strong resilience, and also makes you sterile, so you can't make kids because childbirth of a Witcher would be inhumane to the mother birthing the child.
And a huge perception bonus, basically, because you have cat eyes, can see in the
Yes.
dark better, hear better, smell better, everything like that. So
The Witcher system, the Witcher world in general, which is a Polish novel, not a novel. I don't know the actual name for it right now. It's a fantasy novel. Yes, let's just take that. It was made by cannot pronounce the Polish name, but it was made, and it's a great one. The books are great, and the world is so like. I don't want to say
it's really detailed and fleshed out, and
it's a brutal world. It's a brutal
stuff.
world, which is what I wanted to say.
Yeah.
It's brutal to you. Witchers are across the globe hated for what they are. Mutations, mutants, outsiders, but they are also needed somewhat. They can kill monsters, other people can't. But they are only tolerated because of that fact.
It's something like a love-hate relationship. They love what the Witchers do, but hate the Witchers. As
mages
people
are hated also very much in the northern.
Good thing I'm playing a mage from the Northern Kingdoms. Yay!
We have elves, we have dwarves, we have halflings. That's basically it for The Witcher. Like, the world is pretty good in its depiction of reality, you could say, of a real in the terms of how people interact with you. They are racist. Let's just say that it's a racist world, and that is not for everybody. I can say that the world may not be for everybody because it is racist. It is it's sexist, not feminist. But of course, in the modern media, they still have powerful women depicting feminism and how strong women actually are, because maybe like it's a game with many political issues, and it has its focus on those issues. The books, the series, the games, they have these issues that they really want to focus on. And
but overall, it's a good, more or less realistic depiction of a fantasy medieval
but
Europe.
Some people obviously don't want that, and that's totally fine.
Yeah.
But then I would not advise you to look into the Witcher world, because the premise is brutal. Like, if I have to describe it in one word, the world is brutal to everybody. And yeah, I don't want to get into that too much. But what we wanted to do with the Witcher system, because you have a character in that system, and today is about character backstories. And you, for that one shot, did not have a backstory yet.
Exactly. Because for one shots, you don't really dive that deep into character backstory, so you don't need a really big one or one at all.
You at least don't have to, in my opinion. Like, you can, if you want to write a backstory that's 3 or 4 pages long for that character that you only play one time, do that.
But it's not mandatory.
I, as a DM, would say I don't care if that character only has a baseline personality, so you can try out the fun stuff you want to do, or is complex to the bone. That's both okay.
And actually, the Witcher system gives you very good prompts for your character backstory.
Mm-hmm.
Within the rules. Because when you create your character, you have to run a life path, is what it's called in the rulebook. And within this, I have the PDF right here. Wait a second. You first choose your homeland, and from that, you either roll if your parents are still alive, or somebody of your family, or if they don't, you go to a different table. So you have very different tables for every situation. With prompts from what happened to your family, what happened to your parents, what is your family name or family house status within your region, how well are you known. You can randomize it all if you like. There's tables with dice roll numbers attached to them, to every single one.
It's great if a system does that, in my opinion. The Game of Thrones system I have in the bookshelf next to me also has something like that, because in that game, age is a verified stat, you could say. And your age also changes a little bit about your stats, or the other stats like strength or constitution, dexterity and knowledge, but it also gives you, like, for every 10 years you live, you need to do somewhat of to depict what happened in those 10 years, what major events, like, did you marry, did you get kids, did someone die, did you kill someone, all those stuff. I think actually, I don't know, because I know who made the Witcher system. I will quickly go grab the book and try to find out who made the Game of Thrones book. And while I do that, you talk. Go, please.
Oh, all right. That, for your information, that wasn't planned. Like everything else we do on this podcast. So, yeah. And we thought about crafting the backstory about for my character for the Witcher tabletop, for the one shot, together in this podcast episode to show you what we would like to see as DMs in a character backstory, how we usually do it, and what we think about during that.
I am back.
And very good. I just filled.
Yes, I could still hear you. It's only me standing up, going one steps to the right. It's not by the same, but I think the life path system is actually quite similar to each other. So, yes, okay. No, I just wanted to check if that is a coincidence or not. It's probably a coincidence.
Yeah, but it's a great system.
It's great, this life path system, at least for a baseline that you can then build upon.
Yeah, just like some prompts for your backstory, what might have happened or what did happen, and you can flesh those out as complex as you like, basically, and add any more events even if you like to, but you don't have to.
So, should we get into a little bit of general backstories?
I think we should, after half an hour of just us.
Yes.
babbling.
So, what is a character backstory in your opinion?
A character backstory, in my opinion, is the life of that character up to this point where the story picks up as you playing the character.
Yes,
you know what I mean.
Yes. For me, it's
talk,
please.
From your birth up through your upbringing and your motivations, everything in between and including those.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For me, it's
the
same. You need to talk about, and your backstory should be what happened up until this point when you start the campaign or when you pick up where the story starts. But it's much more than just giving a life path, what happened. For me, it's especially the word reasoning. You need a backstory, in my opinion. If you play your character very arrogant and cocky and very fed up of yourself, then I want an explanation why that character trait, that flaw or whatever developed over the course of your life, because there should be an explanation. should not just be, I am this way. This is what my character would do.
Yeah, don't use the sentence.
Don't use the sentence, but the sentence itself, in my opinion, speaks still truth. This is what my character would do is the right sentence, and you can use that sentence if your character background explains why your character acts that way. If that is the case, then you can use that one. Like,
just saying that's what my character would do just isn't cutting it. You have to, your backstory has to explain why your character would do it the way you say your character would do it.
If that is there, then I am more or less fine with that. Still, there's a bad stigma around the phrase
just
because
you
it's more of a phrase used by people that play more or less evil characters, you could say, that just do stuff that is unacceptable in every sense. Like, I burned down an orphanage. If the group is okay with that, go for it. But if someone looks at you like he's not understanding why you do this, then that phrase is just not there. Don't use that phrase.
Yeah. The phrase is in the meme sense of it is just an excuse for you wanting to.
Don't use it as an excuse. Use it as an explanation. Like, if your player character would now try to steal from the noble the party was invited by, I can understand that. If your character backstory says that you are a kleptomaniac, that you seek challenges, for example, that you want to steal from them because it would be a challenge for yourself and you know they have a lot of money, then you could say, this is what my character would do because it is what the character would do, and it is actually good role-playing, in my opinion. Just using that phrase to explain why you want to do shit? No. If you want to use the phrase to explain that you do something cool and fun and interesting, go for it.
So, quick question. What do you think, how long should a backstory be?
That is a very interesting question for me, because I am an advocate for I don't care how long your backstory is, as long as it is good. I have seen people give me half-page backstories that are better than people that have given me 10 pages.
So, on that point, what do you think makes a backstory a good one?
As said before, explanation of why your character does something, why he is. I have some things that, in my opinion, make a backstory, and that is, first of all, backstories are it's hard to say. It's an entryway, you could say, into the world for you as a player, as a character. It's a way for your DM to understand what your character is, who they are, what they do, and all of that stuff. Like, people can give me a list of talking points or bullet points that are just, my character has had a happy childhood. They had a caring father, but a hating mother. Then those 3 points that could have been all in one sentence already, and I can see that you may have a mother complex already. You want to have a mother.
So basically, you should definitely leave some room for your DM to interpret, if I understand that correct.
Yes and no. Like, yes, you should leave room to interpretation for your DM, because that is the most important part of a backstory. You can write a very good backstory that is not open-ended, but that's called writing a book or a short story, not a character background. There are some people that are really good at writing books. Then write a book. What I meant more with it is, your character backstory should, as said before, explain why your character is that way. I do that through short stories. I ask my players, if you are very curious, for example, and you say as a player and in your backstory that curiosity sometimes puts you in dangerous or not so comfortable situations, then give me a story about that. Why is that? Like, yes, you can just be curious without an explanation, but you, like, give me an explanation. Give me a fun story that why you were exploring with your siblings or something, and you found something interesting. It could be very small, like 5 sentences of a story of you going exploring with your friends and siblings. That makes a character complex if you have these small memories. Like, you need a character backstory is something the character memorizes. You should know that what in the backstory is. What is in the backstory is something you as a player should always know. That's something you need to know when your DM asks you of it, because they are the memory. The backstory is the memory of your character of that, and that is why I want my players to put in as much little nudges and talking points or something in there that are more or less irrelevant when talking about the big scale of the game. Because they make memories. If they are at the campfire, like Sönke in the last episode said, I am the DM that when you sit at the campfire, say, do you talk? Like, I ask the players, do you do something at the campfire? If not, we skip to the next day. And those memories are what is used there. Like, use your memories, talk a bit. You can start with, I was very curious when I was young. I went exploring in the woods with my siblings a lot. That is something that in the backstory does not take up much space. And if your backstory gets longer because of having those things in it, it's not a worse backstory than someone who doesn't. It may not be better, but it's definitely not worse if you include some memories. Small ones, funny ones, anything like that.
It just makes it easier for you to remember your backstory, because you tie, or at least I do, I tie myself to some small minor details which I like about my character or my characters, and just remember them more deeply through that.
Yes.
And it makes the role-playing part way easier. If you have some details which you can just throw out there at the heads of the other players, you have something to talk about during those long campfire nights.
That's the most important part of
while you're on watch.
Enable RP with it. The only I would do is write something that does not enable you to RP. Because everything you can write can be a backstory of some sort. Are there any real don'ts you have that have not been mentioned already?
Not really. Just write as much as you like. Don't really overdo it with every small detail. Put in details, but just if you say I went through the flower field, you don't have to explain how you smell, what kind of smell the flowers had. That's something you can add as flavor if you like, but it's just irrelevant information regarding your your character. If you say I can't smell the smell of sulfur, for example, then I need an explanation why. But saying I walked by a volcano and it smelled of sulfur just isn't something that is really useful and enables you to RP.
Oh, yes.
That's just the one point that I don't really... If you want to write it, sure, but I will just skip those parts.
Yes. Yes, for example, it's now for your character, for the mage in Witcher. It's a one-shot game.
Yeah.
So, in general, I would say if you are having a one-shot and you know it's gonna be a one-shot, you don't... For me at least, you don't have to write a backstory when I'm your DM, when you do that, when we play. Because I want you guys to have fun, and sometimes a backstory I'm that kind of DM that when we play one shot is open to anything and does not want you to become restricted by a backstory you have written, because I have seen that happening. People restrict themselves because of their backstory and don't enjoy the character anymore at some point.
Yeah, they just write an ironclad backstory which don't really give much room to grow anymore.
It's not much the growing part. Yes, you need room to grow. In my opinion, room to grow while is the next big thing next to room for interpretation by your DM. But you don't necessarily need that if you do it correctly. Like you should grow your character over the time you play. But the groundwork for that does not have to be in the backstory. But you should not write like you said, ironclad backstories that are unchangeable. Point. Period. Like there is no way this changes. That is bad, and that is why I have implemented for one of my campaigns. We play a session 0 first. After that, we play the session 1, and after that one, you guys write backstories. Or begin writing backstories. Because I wanted my players to find their playstyle before restricting themselves to a playstyle. I gave them some time with the character before they wanted to restrict themselves to that character.
That's actually something I will pick up in future games. That's
like at least play a session 0 with your players and then let them write backstories so they get a feel for the character, for the features, for the part they want to play, and let them, like, you want to, with the growing part, you want to start at a point where you feel comfortable and grow into a point where you feel comfortable, while the journey to that point from the starting point makes you comfortable, right? You need to be comfortable the whole way through. And some people write a backstory, and at the first evening already, they do something that more or less contradicts their backstory, and boom, they feel somewhat uncomfortable playing. Give it time. Find the right backstory. That's one of the biggest advice I can give. Find the backstory. And if your DM is one that says, I need this backstory stat for the first time we play, that can be a good reason, because the DM wants to start tying your backstory already with the story. But you can, in my opinion, always tell them, hey, I did not find my style yet. Can I get a week or 2 more? And they will probably say yes. I think they will say yes.
Yeah, most of the DMs should and will say yes to that. But even if they don't, because they want to tie everyone to the story from the beginning, work with your DM. Say, I can give you the basic construct of my backstory. I can forge something that isn't really that deep, and just some anchor points, and fill in the gaps later while you find your playstyle.
That is great. Yes. That is perfect. Yes. One.
So
you go ahead.
You.
No, you.
I wanted to ask you something, because sometimes I do struggle with creating character backstories. I have great character concepts like race and class and multi-class options. I would love to try and have something in my mind about how I want to play them. But what are the questions you ask yourself as the character while you create the backstory? Or do you have any?
I have that is maybe something that's hard.
Yeah, I know. Surprise.
When I write a backstory, I take inspiration from all points I can get. Music, TV, film, books, video games, other tabletop RPGs, anything that I can get my hands on. I love. It's hard. Okay. I don't really ask myself questions when writing a character backstory. What I do though is think about, like, I don't do an interview with my character, but I think about some things that need to be in a backstory, in my opinion. And those are also things that I ask my players if they write backstories. That is the biggest one, is my opinion, or where they are all big. Why are you out and about? Like, why are you outside adventuring and risking your life in the process?
Then maybe a quick thing in between. Let's make it a questionnaire. You ask me those questions, and we together write the backstory for the one-shot character. Answering those
Why
questions.
is your mage out and about?
If I remember it correctly, most mages in the Witcher universe are hired by some sort of court, or are some sort of court magician, or are tied to that. At least
they are. Yes, you could say that.
Would it be possible if that my mage, he's coming from the Skellige Isles, maybe a subsidiary of the court mage of the ruling house there?
Or you want to say you're a mage of the Uncrates? I think yes, it's the Uncrates.
Yeah, or at least a subsidiary of the court mage of the Uncrates.
Like, yeah, I'm down for that. Yes.
Then I'll write that.
So that mage has sent you somewhere. Exactly. We don't know yet where the one show is, but I can tell you it's not Novigrad because he is not dumb. Maybe it's Novigrad. I have an idea for an adventure already right now. Maybe I will.
All right.
Maybe I will do the next one.
You're welcome.
The one shot in a different way than I expected. Maybe it's Novigrad. Maybe not. But he sent you somewhere. Yes. Let's get right to the next question then. Why would you risk your life for something?
Depending on what it is I'm risking my life for.
Your mission. Why were you were sent because of something, right? Why would you risk your life for that? And for everyone hearing this, it doesn't even have to be risking your life. It just, this question is more like, why would you fight someone? Like, in D&D or many tabletop RPGs, combat is more or less normal, and you encounter beasts that can kill you, people that can kill you. Why would you risk going on an adventure, having those fights, if you could just stay home? You have got this quest, but why did you accept the quest and will now do everything that more or less ensures its success?
That ties somewhat into the life path events I rolled on the table. Or at least I have an idea for that, because the last life event was some sort of romance with a problematic love. So I somewhat now have a girlfriend of some sort. But her friends and family hate me and don't condone our love. So maybe accepting it to show her family that I'm worth something, am something she is allowed, in quotation marks, to love.
So she's also Skellige, right?
Yes.
Yes, it could definitely be that you tried for her hand, and the father or the mother denied it, saying you are not worthy of our daughter. You need to prove you are worthy. And that is why you asked, for example, your court mage or your boss, let's say that, to send you on something very dangerous that shows you are worthy of the love of that girl.
Yeah, and even if it is slaying monsters, that ties into something else, because both my parents were killed by monsters in some sort of accident, and I wrote in brackets behind it, by a noon wraith.
Oh, by a wraith, by a ghost.
So any sort of ghostly figure I really do not like.
I get ideas. Yes. With that, we also already have more or less what's your personal quest motivation or drive. You have the drive of more or less maybe revenge for your parents, but also the very big motivation of getting home again. You can't risk dying outside of Skellige. But
exactly.
You also have the personal quest of being worthy of the girl that you want to be your wife.
Yes.
We have also already gone to past acquaintances, alive or dead. You have the court mage. You have the girl, your girlfriend. You have the parents of that girlfriend. You have your parents, which are dead. So the last question I would have is, what are places you hold dear?
I would probably say the house I grew up in, or the play or depending on what you want.
I have something for you. You are the son.
Okay.
You were the son of an ordinary fisher that is now trying for the hand of more or less a very high noble, in quotation marks, house of Skellige, which is obviously not really acceptable. So that fishing village is a place you hold very dear.
Yes. Let me write that down. Frantic writing.
Those are actually things I yoinked off Twitter. I put a tweet out and people sent me that stuff. So I thank those very much. And one also said something very interesting to me. Think of a song that describes your character, or a song that can help you creating that character. It's not something we maybe need to do now for your character, but for the people out there listening. If you want to write a character backstory, maybe think of 1 or 2 songs, or even make a playlist on Spotify of songs that could help you get into character and help you with building that character, that remind you of what you want to play. That's a very good idea, in my opinion, because music has a lot of effect on our subconscious, obviously.
It somehow helps us, or helps the people then visualize what kind of feel you are going for with the backstory, because music transports feelings like nothing else, actually.
Yes, that's basically more or less the best help and things we can give for those backgrounds, the questions. Do you have any, when you let your players do backstories, do you have any kind of rules for making that backstory? Because I have guidelines I wanted to share.
Yeah, I have some too. So, but not really that hard. Just, like you said, guidelines. In most hero stories, there's some kind of tragedy. So that sparks you to go out and adventure. That's most of the time. This tragedy is what made your personal quest yours, and gave you the spark why you started adventuring, going out to do the things you want to do.
Yes.
And there should be some sort of living beings of some sort. So basically NPCs that should, or the DM should be able to use in the way he sees fit.
Yes. That's the actually very important part.
It may be even a dead one which he can erase from the dead as an undead slave for some
Now
weird
we're
mage,
getting
and
ideas.
and now you're on a revenge train to kill that evil necromancer.
I have touched on my guidelines already. Don't create a character. Don't create a background without knowing your player character. That is something, especially for new players. If you don't have a feeling for your character, wait a bit. Play them a little bit like you want to play them. Find your playstyle, and when you have it, then write a backstory. Experienced players or DMs, it can look very easy for us, but sometimes we also struggle with finding the perfect background for a character. Obviously, we also write backgrounds for NPCs.
Yeah, but that's just basically practice, like a shit ton of practice. Writing NPC backstories is like a light version of a character backstory, because it does not have to have all the things in it that we discussed. Like an NPC background does not have to have any sort of major tragedy.
It depends. I would say you need to make the NPC interesting enough so it gets worthy of actually being an NPC.
Definitely. But for example, an interesting NPC barkeeper does not have to have any major tragedy in his life why he became bartender.
Yes, that is the thing. You don't need to explain why they became a bartender with like being an adventurer is something that is not the same as having a stable income, a stable household, food, and a roof over your head. There's a difference. Yes, I can see that.
So to make character fun and exciting and interesting, you need to have some sort of tragedy, but not any major one explaining why he does things. Because some people say comedy is tragedy plus time. So there needs to have some sort of tragedy, minor or major, depending on what you want to go for, that shape the way characters turn out to be.
Yes, the second point, like we talked already about this, there is no hero without tragedy. This does not mean you need someone dead in your family, but there needs to be somewhat of a motivation, a drive, a goal that makes it interesting to play the character, to work, especially for me as a DM. I want you need a backstory is somewhat like a selling pitch of your character too. Make your character interesting for me, because if they are not interesting for me, which is basically only when you don't give me a backstory, I will not interact with them as much as I maybe should. I like you as a player, but if you don't give me a backstory, that's a problem. And I ask all of my players to do that at a given point. Give me a background on that player character, because I want to know them.
And if you don't have a backstory, there is no way to really interact with the player character as the DM, except, I'm role-playing the salesman that you are talking to now. Maybe in a long stretch campaign over several years, where you make some acquaintances, friends, enemies, and something like that, that can be part, or that will be part of your backstory, and that's something the DM will weave into it. But that's true for nearly the whole group then. So make your character something, or your backstory something the DM can work with to give you your moment of spotlight.
Yes, that's important. I have then I have a rule or a guideline of what should be in the background. And if you give me these things only as bullet points on a piece of paper, that's already enough for me to interact with the character. Living entities, so I can use them as NPCs. Places, your hometown village, maybe the academy that you learned in, maybe the castle you served at before, maybe a boat you've sailed across the sea several times for the character. Maybe you have been sent on many quests over the sea, and you've got to know the crew on that boat that always ships with you. That's a place as well. A goal is a goal for your character again. Finally being worthy enough of marrying the girl. Fears are very important in my opinion. Write down your biggest fear of the character. Because first of all, DMs like to use fears if they can see them, because it's such a great moment for RP, because your character will be horrified. For example, if you have a great fear of spiders, your GM will at some point probably use spiders against you, just because it is first of all fun, but second of all it gives so much opportunity for you to play your character and grow. A fear is a place of growing. Overcoming a fear is one of the biggest moments of character development you can find anywhere.
Yeah, that's
the biggest one actually in my opinion there, next to a secret or two. Have something you don't tell anybody. Like, I will now get into not much detail, but one of my players has a backstory where the secret is he is not who he seems to be. Not in the normal sense like he disguises, but he hides from something. I have another player who also has that same thing, but on a completely different scale. They run away from something. That's very interesting. Those are secrets. Those are very good points where your GM can latch onto and rip everything apart they want to, if you want to face it like that.
And maybe just while you're walking through a city, and then the DM just mentions something in an off sentence. Nobody else will really bat an eye on that, but your character, that has this sort of secret or a secret bound to that fact that he just said.
It be a dropped name, just creates a person you see, and you as the player are the only one that goes like shit.
Yeah. It's just a huge tension creator.
A reason why your character is in the position where you start from. I want to know why your character is there where we start the campaign. That is also something like it can fluctuate. It is very fluid, because if you have a character that is, for example, of whatever reason not allowed to enter a country, it would be very bad to start the campaign in that country, or it would be very good. But, like, of course, I as the DM am willing to put the point where we start the campaign after I have seen every character and have talked to them where the best starting point is. But I want an explanation why you're there at that starting point after we have chosen that one. And I want, as said before, a reason why you are adventuring. Why do you, like, the thing is, you can play someone who has a loving wife, 2 kids, and a great farm at home.
But why
the fuck would you go outside, try to battle dragons? Yeah, maybe they are terrorizing the countryside, but
then you have your reason to
go out and obviously, but adventuring is also something like, why would you go so far away doing like more or less silly quests? Like, why would you spend years on end away from that home, from the place you call home? Why would you spend years away from that?
Yeah.
That is the reason. That is good. Yes.
Exactly.
So, we are at 1 hour and 5. So I wanted to to ask you something again. One last question. What is your character? What is from your characters your favorite backstory you have ever written? And why is that?
To be honest, I didn't really write that much backstories in my playing days because I didn't really play that much.
Granted, I do too.
But the most my favorite one would probably be one again from a one shot, because those are nearly the only things I play in as a player. I played an alchemist artificer for one shot for a Halloween themed one shot run by a friend of ours. And I was let me get this straight. All right. I wrote the backstory, my own backstory, but tied it together with another player, because that's something I like to do as a DM and as a player, because it creates some role-playing opportunities right from the get-go. And the one I created the backstory with was the one player that played the Oathbreaker Paladin as her first character in one of my games. She played some sort of Witcher-like character, and she wanted to enact revenge on one of the monsters that killed her family. And I was the one in the alchemist in the alchemist guild that was tasked with brewing her some sort of Witcher potions, in quotation marks, in the D&D world. And something went terribly wrong, because my character is some sort of a perfectionist alchemist brewer kind of guy. So he tastes a bit of everything he makes, being it poison, healing, potions, anything like that, to test the potency of it.
The only way to do it, obviously.
Exactly. Obviously. And as I tested the super strong Witcher kind of potion, I turned mad, or some sort of crazy, at least. That was hard to roleplay, because in a one-shot we want to get going, and so there wasn't that much of role-playing interactions, but the ones they were pretty funny because of that. And one encounter really just blew my mind. It was at night during our camp in the middle of the forest. Then came out some deers with lanterns on their antlers, without eyes, and grinning the whole time. Spooky as shit, and it's still a thing in everything else we play after that. And when they hit their touch attack on you, they enact your worst fears into you. And that was a moment my character just collapsed. I told the DM I think my character would, after seeing that, my character would be unconscious at least for 3 to 5 rounds. Because of the fear of losing everything he had after his family abandoned him for not being interested in the magic of the divine. Because my family was some sort of divine paladin cleric kind of thing. And I was the only one who said, hey, there should be, or there would be, any sort of magic outside the divine powers. And they abandoned me for it. They exiled me from their homestead, or from what was at that time my homestead as well. So I have found a new family in that guild. And the worst fear would be that guild would reject me as well.
Okay.
So that's basically the most interesting
that
or
is pretty interesting
fun to play backstory. Yeah. So, what was your favorite backstory you wrote?
Obviously, I knew that the question was coming now. I was obviously prepared for that. I have... No, I really was prepared. My favorite backstory is for one of my characters named Noelle, which is... she is a very interesting character because I took the normal, very simple motivational drive of revenge and pumped it to the max. This is now gonna get a little bit weird, and I will put a content warning out for this part. It's not so easy to... It's not hard, but it's maybe something people don't want to really listen to. Noelle was bullied in her life for being a half-elf in the city she grew up in. But she still was a happy child. That changed, however, when she was 4, was taken by pirates as loot, as a slave. Those pirates then more or less trained her into becoming a killing machine and a pirate as well. Though she still hated them, she knew she needed to play the part with them to survive. And obviously the long years of also bullying by these pirates, obviously they were not very kind to her. She more or less got very cold. Like a stone cold killer. She then killed the people that also killed her mother, and fled the ship and went into hiding. Was then found by the Thieves Guild that more or less trained her into becoming a real assassin or a real thief and giving her contracts and all that stuff. The problem with Noelle is that she seeks to take revenge on everyone that was on that ship that day. And she will not make an exception. That is something that is chiseled in stone. She will not change that fact, at least not yet. But Noelle is convinced that she is not human anymore. Or at least she does not deserve the word human as a descriptor of her. She thinks she is not deserving of any love, compassion, or friendship. And
that's a good one.
It leaves so much room to grow, right? If she just her journey is about revenge, taking revenge on someone called the Sea Demon, which is a very, very ruthless pirate captain. And yes, you know that name.
Oh, you told me about,
Yes, but the most important thing about it is the journey. I made it like this. She has an obvious journey of taking the revenge part. But the journey she actually has is finding her humanity, her feelings again. Finding something she loves again. Having fun in life again. Seeing the good things life actually brings you. Because she only knows she needs to survive until everyone on the ship is dead. After that, she does not know if she is supposed to survive.
So, being deserved of being called human,
being deserving again. of compassion and love, I would say, more than being called human. She sees herself as a monster and has no reason to call herself human because she is the monster she needs to be to kill another monster. But her journey is about finding that she is actually still somewhat human. Okay, she's an half-elf, but she still needs to find humanity, which is different than being human. She needs to find she needs to find her way again. She needs to find love. She needs to find happiness, all that stuff she needs to find again. And that's very interesting because the contrast of her for 4 years being bullied but still being happy as a child to becoming the stone cold killer she is right now is very, very interesting to me. And I love playing her.
And so much room to grow. There's so much you could do as a DM and as actually other players. to help her get to that goal she wants to go, or get to the goal she does not yet know where she wants to go. That she wants to get to that goal.
Yes, that's basically my favorite. It's very long. It's like a 6-page backstory or so. So to anyone that says don't write 5 pages or 6 pages for your backstory, yes, you can do that if you fill them correctly. Interesting, with relevant information. You don't need to I don't know the word, to double it. For example, if you write that you are like, if you explain something, you don't need to explain it 3 pages after it again. Make it as short as possible, but don't shorten it in any way. Make the backstory you want and make it as interesting as possible, but while still making it short so your DM will actually read it and enjoy it. Because I can see that that reading a backstory that is over 30 pages long is not something I would do again. And yes, I say again, because I've done that before.
So just imagine in my 7 to 9 player group, every character would write a 30-page backstory. That's just an insane amount of text I have to read through to get the point, which could be conveyed in 4 or 5 pages. So, to wrap things up, because we are running about 1 hour and 20 minutes already. Stuff we are looking for in a backstory, and you should, as players, think about during creating your backstory, are leave room to grow as a character, and leave room for your DM to interpret something into your backstory. If you don't have any specific names for entities in your backstory, that's something your DM can work with. And even if they have names, so have some living entities there your DM can use as NPCs. The next thing would be, why are you out and about, and why are you going on adventures? What is the reason you're doing what you do, and what is the goal that you try to achieve? The next thing, in most hero stories, there is a lot of tragedy involved, because that shapes interesting adventure characters. The next thing would be, why would you risk your life for something? And this something should be defined for different occasions. For then we need some places you hold dear, or you like, you fear.
Yes.
Something that ties you to that world, basically. Then some general fears of your character, and maybe, if you like, some secrets or two that could just drop your jaw in the moment the DM mentions it. Did I forget anything?
No, not really. Yes, just remember, for your backstory, make something you enjoy as a backstory. That's the best thing. Make something you enjoy.
Yeah. I just took that as a premise from the get-go. If you make something you don't enjoy, why do you bother making it? And a big one is, as always, work with your DM. Because if you work with your DM, you make sure you all are crafting a story together you and everybody else likes. And that's the reason why we play this game. To have fun, enjoy the stories we create, and make friends along the way, maybe even.
Definitely.
Yeah, so is there any more to say?
Not from my side, actually. No, I'm good.
Very good. So, as always, thank you for listening. Follow us on Twitter at DoubleDM Pod. Same on Instagram.
I need to interrupt you for that.
Oh.
Have you already followed
sure, go
Hope
ahead.
for TTRPGs on Instagram with that account? And
Yeah,
your
I have.
personal, obviously? Perfect.
Yes, of
I
course.
just wanted to let you know Hope has an Instagram account now.
Yeah. And, of course, follow Hope for TTRPGs on Twitter,
Yes.
Instagram, and every
If
channel
Hope
available.
listens to this, Hope will cry again. I know that. Because Hope always cries when we say something nice about Hope, about her. Hope,
But
if you are
she's
listening
just
to this,
a nice
you are
person.
the nicest person, the most supportive and kind person, and I wish to be like, if I'm just a fraction like you, it would already be enough. You do so much for us, and I see it all the time on the Discord. Please, Hope, take time for yourself. Please do
it.
Take enough sleep. Do some fun stuff.
And to quote Emil on this, if you don't, we will find you and we will force you to.
Yes.
Really. So, follow Hope on Twitter, Instagram, join the Discord server if you want to interact with so many nice people, and even us if you like. Or maybe you already do. Who knows? Follow us on our channels, and I wanted to say one thing real quick. I am trying to get this podcast running on Google Podcasts as well, because there's something wonky right now with Anchor FM. We are listed, or Anchor lists that our podcast can be heard on Google Podcasts, but it cannot. So I'm trying to fix that during the week.
Can I just say something
that is
very
to come.
funny right now to end this episode, because actually we just made the closing statement. For Self-Promo Saturday, that is something that is not unique to the TTRPG space, obviously. I have just gotten a promotion from a marriage commissioner. Like, I haven't made a post, and people can put their stuff in the comments or the replies, and someone has said, I'm a marriage commissioner. Love celebrating love, and I'm always up for a unique wedding. Pick a theme and I will have a costume.
Oh, okay. That's something
Yes.
unexpected. Is there something you want to tell?
That marriage commissioner is now
I don't know
following
yet.
me. Follow back.
Right. Sure. So, as always, it was a pleasure to have you listen to us. It's some sort of weird thing to say, actually, but thanks for listening, and I hope you tune in next week.
Same.
See you then.
Bye.
Bye.